The word slipped out before I could stop it. Careful, baby. The grocery bag was already falling from Emma's hands, and I caught it before the glass pasta sauce inside shattered on the parking lot pavement. She froze. I froze. Time itself seemed to forget how to move. For 5 years, I had called her everything except that. Emma. Partner in crime. Best friend. My favorite person. But never, baby. My face burned with embarrassment as I opened my mouth to apologize. Instead of laughing. Instead of pretending she hadn't heard it. She smiled with tears gathering in her eyes and whispered the words that changed both of our lives forever. Finally. I stood there completely speechless. I had no idea she had been waiting for that one accidental word almost as long as I had been trying not to say it. Until that moment, I believed the greatest mistake of my life had just happened. I couldn't have been more wrong. The greatest miracle had. My name is Daniel Carter, and I spent years believing that protecting someone meant hiding your own heart. Emma Brooks taught me that real kindness isn't just about giving people your time, your strength, or your help. Sometimes the kindest thing you can give someone is the truth. Emma and I met during our freshman year at a community college outside Portland, Oregon. She was carrying far too many books when one slipped from her arms. Papers flew everywhere across the campus sidewalk. Most people walked around the mess. I knelt beside her without saying a word. 20 minutes later, after every page had been collected, she smiled and held out a coffee. You helped me even though you'd never met me. It seemed like the right thing. That was the beginning. Friendship came naturally. Love came silently. Neither of us admitted it. Life had other plans. After graduation, Emma became a pediatric nurse at a children's hospital. I started working for a nonprofit organization that repaired homes for elderly families who couldn't afford contractors. Neither job paid especially well. Neither of us cared. We measured success differently. Whenever I had a free Saturday, Emma joined me repairing broken porches, installing wheelchair ramps, or painting homes. Whenever she organized toy drives for sick children, I was there loading boxes into trucks. People often assumed we were dating. We always laughed it off. We're just best friends. The words became automatic. Safe. Comfortable. Terrifying. Because every time I said them, a small part of me wished they weren't true anymore. The truth was simple. Emma deserved someone extraordinary. Someone wealthier. Someone more successful. Someone who could give her everything. I was just a guy who fixed broken houses. So I buried my feelings. Years passed that way. Then came Mrs. Evelyn Harris. She was an 82-year-old widow whose roof had started leaking after a winter storm. Our nonprofit didn't have enough volunteers that weekend. Emma took vacation days from work just to help. For 3 straight days we replaced roofing shingles under the hot summer sun. Mrs. Harris cried when we finished. I've spent months praying for angels. Emma hugged her gently. We're not angels. Mrs. Harris smiled. No. You're something rarer. She handed us 2 homemade apple pies. On the drive home Emma looked exhausted. You know, she said softly, people think kindness changes the person receiving it. It doesn't. It changes the people giving it too. I never forgot those words. Months later, Emma's father suffered a serious stroke. Everything changed overnight. She suddenly became responsible for hospital visits, insurance paperwork, physical therapy appointments, and caring for her younger brother, Noah, who had autism. She never complained. But I could see the exhaustion hiding behind her smile. So I simply showed up. I stocked her refrigerator. Picked Noah up from school. Mowed her lawn. Cooked dinners she was too tired to make. Sat beside her father reading newspapers aloud while she caught a few hours of sleep. I never asked for anything. Love doesn't keep score. One evening she found me asleep in a chair beside her father's hospital bed after working a full day. She quietly placed a blanket over my shoulders. I pretended to stay asleep. Sometimes love speaks loudest through silence. Nearly a year later, her father finally returned home. He hugged me longer than words could explain. "You've been the son I didn't know I had." Those words nearly broke me. Still, I said nothing to Emma. Because fear is stubborn. Then came the grocery store. The accident. The word. Baby. And her answer. Finally. We sat inside my truck for almost an hour afterward. Neither of us drove anywhere. Neither of us wanted the moment to end. She laughed through happy tears. "You really had no idea? I thought you only saw me as your best friend." Emma shook her head. "I've loved you since the day you picked up my papers." I stared at her. "What? You looked at everyone else walking away, then chose to help a complete stranger. I knew then exactly what kind of man you were. But why didn't you ever tell me?" She smiled. "Probably for the same reason you didn't." "Fear?" She nodded. "I didn't want to lose my best friend." I laughed. "So we both spent 5 years protecting something we already had. And risking something even better. For our first official date, we skipped expensive restaurants. Instead, we returned to Mrs. Harris's house. Her garden fence had collapsed after another storm. We spent the afternoon rebuilding it together. When Mrs. Harris realized we were finally a couple, she clapped her hands with pure joy. I was beginning to think you two needed matching eyeglasses." Emma laughed until tears rolled down her cheeks. On the way home we stopped for burgers from a roadside diner. They tasted better than any 5-star meal. Love has a way of making ordinary moments unforgettable. 6 months later, Noah entered an art competition. His painting showed 2 people building a house beneath a bright blue sky. At the bottom he had written one sentence. "The people who fix homes also fix hearts." The judges awarded him first place. I don't think they realized they had also summarized our entire story. A year later, Emma and I organized a community project asking neighbors to nominate families needing home repairs. More than 200 volunteers showed up. Electricians, teachers, firefighters, college students, retirees, children carrying paintbrushes almost bigger than themselves. Over one weekend, 12 homes were repaired. No television cameras came. No celebrities attended. Nobody wanted recognition. Kindness doesn't need an audience. It only needs willing hands. That evening Emma stood beside me watching children play in freshly cleaned yards. She squeezed my hand. "You know what I love most?" "What?" "Our story didn't begin with romance." I smiled. "It began with kindness. And that's why it'll last." 2 years later, standing beneath giant oak trees in the same community park where we'd once volunteered together, I finally asked the question I should have asked long ago. "Emma Brooks." She laughed immediately. "You're nervous. Terrified. Good. Continue." I dropped onto one knee. People nearby stopped walking. Children stopped playing. Even a golden retriever sat down as if waiting for the answer. "You've spent years making everyone else's lives brighter. You've taught me that kindness isn't weakness. It's courage. You've shown me that the strongest hearts are the gentlest ones." I opened the small velvet box. "I accidentally called you baby once." She grinned. "My favorite accident. I promise the next word won't be accidental." She covered her mouth as tears filled her eyes. "Will you marry me?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she wrapped both hands around mine. Just like the day we first met. Just like the day papers covered the sidewalk. Just like every difficult season we'd survived together. Then she smiled the same beautiful smile. Finally. The crowd around us erupted in applause. Noah ran forward first, hugging us both. Mrs. Harris, now walking confidently with the cane we'd helped customize years earlier, wiped away tears. Emma's father simply whispered, "I knew this day was coming." As the sun dipped below the trees, I realized something extraordinary. The greatest love stories aren't built on perfect timing, grand speeches, or flawless plans. They're built one small act of kindness at a time. One helping hand. One shared burden. One quiet sacrifice. And sometimes, one accidental word that was never really an accident at all.